Members of Parliament, support staff, visitors in the public tribune, radio listeners, TV viewers, all viewing this meeting via social media, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I welcome you to this public meeting of Parliament. This is public meeting number 7 for today, Monday, February the 17th. We have established a quorum of...
Today is motion points, the voting again that came up during the budget debate. And considering that the whole way, and I know that I'm not the first person to say it, the whole way we went about allowing this motion to be handled for a task or an authority that is actually held by Parliament, I'm just wondering whether or not we can take time. My suggestion would have been to take time to sort of caucus to see whether or not we wanted to continue with this vote, or whether we could ask the persons that act the requesters of it to pull it back, because of the fact that what we're doing with this vote on independence discussion is basically assigning a task that belongs to Parliament to the Council of Ministers to come back and tell us about it, but it starts here. It's an option that starts here. And I know that part of the requesters are not here, but I wanted to see if we could actually have a discussion about that, because also what you notice that is going out in the public is a little bit of misinformation that's happening or surrounding this. It's making it look like it's a discussion of yes or no, and it's not that, because the process started incorrect in the beginning. The process is supposed to say this has to originate in the House of Parliament. It is not about House of Parliament alone saying, no, we don't want this, and coming up to a tie again, because as everyone knows, if we come to a tie again today, it is going to be rejected at the end of the day. So I would like to see whether or not there is a possibility of us to discuss this over again, because right now, the way that it's going out, it is not fair that there's misinformation surrounding this process. The process originates here. It is not something that we give and hand over to the Council of Ministers to do. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP De Wever. I now give the floor to MP Lacruz. MP Lacruz, you have the floor. Please remember, we're still in notifications.
A blessed afternoon, Madam Chair Lady, to you and the SG, my fellow colleagues, and those listening on social media. Madam Chair Lady, I'd like to echo the sentiments of MP De Wever, but with a different, from a different perspective. I do believe, Madam Chair Lady, that a motion that has so much importance to the country that this should have been scheduled at a time when all members are available and here in the House of Parliament, seeing that, for example, a picture could have been cancelled. I do believe that this should have also been postponed to another time, seeing the importance. So I don't know if that would be something that we could maybe decide now, seeing that it is very important. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Lacruz. I don't see any other member of Parliament requiring the floor for notifications, but I do want to use this possibility to extend on behalf of Parliament our condolences to our colleague, MP De Wever, on the passing of her uncle. MP De Wever, our condolences to you and the family. And I want to extend also to Minister Grisha Heiliger Martin condolences from this House in connection with the passing of her grandmother. To these persons and other persons who have lost a loved one and are now grieving the loss of that loved one, on behalf of the Parliament of Sint Maarten, to all of you, much strength and condolences. Members of Parliament, the matter brought forward, especially by MP De Wever, with respect to the particular motion before us, is I was reading a little note passed to me, but I was saying that what was brought forward by MP De Wever regarding the motion was something that I highlighted during the meeting on this motion, We're actually at the stage now where in a next meeting of Parliament, only the voting on the motion is up for voting, nothing really. In fact, I would have given the members of Parliament the opportunity to briefly motivate their vote, but even that is now really necessary in this meeting. It's just the voting that has been postponed until another meeting. I didn't want too many meetings without bringing this to a vote because that is what the rules of order prescribe. So that's the point where we're at. The discussion regarding not so much the essence of the motion, but rather the way the motion is formulated was discussed in a previous meeting. And again, we're now at the point where basically it's about voting, only the voting. We had the opportunity to only postpone the voting, which happened. So there's no way we can open the discussion on this particular motion. And I look here to see, to make sure that I understand, is it that MP York is requesting the floor? MP York, you are requesting the floor, and I will allow you to briefly take the floor. Yes, sorry. If you are asking if I'm finished with my elucidation. Yeah, we're actually in notifications, yes, indeed. And MP York, so with that, I give you the floor.
Good afternoon, one and all. Good afternoon to the Chair Lady, the griffier, honorable colleagues, and the viewing public. Chair Lady, I've taken note of what you just said, but aside from that, my faction in particular, my colleague MP Irion, has been very vocal the last couple of weeks and has extended, and we've sent a couple of letters as it pertains to an update on the budget, to which we have not to date gotten back an answer as yet. And I think something very important as the budget and whatever issues or problems it may have, is very important to know what the problem is. So if we can get an answer on any one of our queries or letters, it will be duly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MP York, for your contribution to the discussion, notifications actually in this meeting. And I continue with the meeting and go over to the first agenda point, which is the incoming documents. In fact, on the list of agenda points, we have the incoming documents, the voting on the motion as submitted by the Member Irion during the public meeting pertaining to a referendum regarding the independence of Sint Maarten. We have number 3, the draft National Ordinance laying down rules on higher education and research, Higher Education Ordinance. This is IS document 431 of the parliamentary year 2022-2023, dated February the 8th, 2023, and the number of the National Ordinance itself is 165 of the parliamentary year 2022-2023. I think it's important to note that this meeting was initially scheduled to take place on November the 8th, 2024. However, it was postponed upon the request of the then acting Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Mr. Lyndon Lewis. That is with respect to the agenda point on the draft National Ordinance, Higher Education. Going over to agenda point number 1, we have the incoming documents for this public meeting. And all members have received the list of incoming documents and the proposals for further handling. These are the incoming documents numbers 334 through 480 of the parliamentary year 24-25. I don't see anyone having requested to speak to the incoming documents, and so I consider the list and the proposals for handling of these documents as approved. We now go over to agenda point number 2, and that is voting on the motion submitted by Member A.M.R Irion during public meeting number 9 regarding a referendum on independence for Sint Maarten. the public plenary handling of the draft National Ordinance establishing the budget for the country St. Maarten for 2025 commenced on January the 13th, 2025. And during the handling of the draft, 9 motions were submitted. During the voting procedure on motion number 1 submitted by MP Irion, the outcome of the voting was 7 votes for and 7 votes against, thus constituting a tie in voting. In accordance with Article 57B of the Rules of Order, if the vote ties, then taking of the decision is postponed to a next meeting. It is important to note that the article also states that if the votes tie again, the proposal shall be deemed as having been rejected. So hence today we have this agenda point. And according to Article 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to voting on the motion number 1 of public meeting number 9 submitted by MP Irion regarding a referendum on independence for St. Maarten. We go over to the voting on the motion. Does anyone wish to roll call vote? Roll call has been requested. Does anyone wish to motivate their vote? As I mentioned earlier, it's not part of a revote, but I give you the opportunity to do so. And I look at those who would require to vote, and I don't see any need for, I do see MP Irion requesting the vote for a brief motivation on his vote. MP Irion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My motivation still stands as it was during the budget debate. And even since then, digging a little deeper, I see that Parliament, because I hear a lot of MPs speaking about the proper procedure, but this body has been dilly-dallying and actually confusing even associations that wanted to get to the referendum. I went back and saw an article in 2015 where the Parliament said, oh, it's submitted to a committee. Then the Parliament says, oh, we did it wrong. And then they submitted another way, and Parliament said we did it wrong again. And a few of us weren't here at that time. So the accountability of the referendum is in Parliament, and maybe the motion so-called wasn't done right, but the body of Parliament has consistently been afraid to address this topic and avoiding getting it done. And I'll be voting for again, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Irion. I see the next speaker wishing to motivate her vote is MP De Wever. MP De Wever, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. It is exactly for the reason of that alone, where the way of us doing it is one way. Going about it through this method doesn't make sense. What it does now is basically put more of a collaborative effort on the members of Parliament to do the work, not for us to take the work, give it to somebody else, which is not their responsibility and authority to do. It's ours. This is the whole point of me requesting at the beginning of this meeting in the notification to pull it back, because it's, in my opinion, respectfully to all, a little bit nonsensical that we're voting on something that is our authority. So that's exactly why I asked it to be requested for us to caucus on the side to track it in. But if this is the way that it's going to go down, then I will be sure that not only on this floor of Parliament, but also in the public, to basically clarify exactly the right way to do this. Then what we're doing is not the right way. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP De Wever. I now give the floor to MP La Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Madam Chair Lady, I did a little research, and going back to the last time that there was a referendum, in March the 7th, 2017, this came in through a petition that was not actually done properly. The petition was not considered a petition, but then the chairman of petitions referred this very important point to a central committee meeting to be discussed. And looking at the articles, and even at the motion, when I read it resolves to urge the government of Sint Maarten to begin preparations. At no point it says that Parliament needs to do the work. So I am somewhat confused about, where this is going and where this is pulling. When I look at it, it says urge the government. And I thought that that was actually the idea of a referendum, when we are going to decide that in here, yes, we will instruct government to prepare the referendum. So maybe I could get some clarity on that. Thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP La Cruz, for your motivation. I now give the floor to MP Peterson. MP Peterson, you have the floor.
Good afternoon to yourself, Madam Chair, to my colleagues, to the SG and the Secretariat, to everybody else tuned in. Madam Chair, just to try to be brief, because although it becomes a little political, a referendum is regulated by law. Articles 92 to 96 of the Constitution, that's where it's regulated, and I can quote for MP La Cruz, because I think it's imperative for MPs, regardless if they have read the law or not, to be honest and ask. And I appreciate MP La Cruz for asking for clarity on it. I will read Article 92, if I may be indulged, Madam Chair. Tot een raadplegend referendum wordt overgegaan op initiatief van de Staten. So that's where in the law it says that here is where it starts. We cannot pass the buck on to government to start the process. But then I want to go to Article 96, which is basically the crux of it all. We need a referendum law. We need a law that regulates referendum before we can go to the topic of what a referendum is to be, whether or not it's independence or autonomy. And as a matter of fact, a referendum can be held on a lot of topics. Basically, every law, if it doesn't pertain to something international, can be put into a referendum to ask the people how they feel about it. Anything maatschappelijk van belang can also be put in a referendum. So let's not make it seem as if the referendum is only about independence. Independence is merely a topic that I agree can be put on for referendum when we have regulated, according to the law, the referendum itself. When we have a referendum law that says, okay, in this specific case, when it comes to independence, these people from this age and up can vote and whatnot. We have to regulate these things first, guys. And the law says it starts with us. We, as Parliament, we have to do it by landsverordening. So if we don't do that, then we cannot think that we can reach to the point where we're going to give the public a yes or no answer, a yes or no question. We really need to start here. And like MP De Wever said, I am not one for passing the buck on to government. Let's do it the right way. And if that is to be the wish of Parliament, which, by the way, to clarify one of the speakers before me, former MP Melissa Gomes, former MP Ludmilla Duncan,
MP
and
Peterson,
former MP...
I need to ask you to keep
Yes.
it short. It's motivation.
Sorry, yes. And former MP Angelique Roumou, who was also in his faction, they started this whole trajectory to reach to that point for us to regulate the referendum. So just to note on that, and yeah, let's just continue the work, guys. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Peterson. I see MP Roseberg requesting the floor. MP Roseberg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Secretary General, my dear colleagues, the one in the public here present today and the ones viewing online. I will also remain on the same position in regards to my vote and vote against, not because I'm against a referendum, but against the procedure, how this motion came about. And I keep on saying education is key. My previous speaker already referred to the law. I did that the last time around as well. And I do think we need to use our time as members of Parliament wisely. So I would like to advise for us to, again, come with the Committee of Decolonization and members who are willing to contribute to that committee. I would like to propose myself, maybe there are others, so that we can start the work where it has left off and we can continue with the legislation and the proper procedures so that we can finalize this topic and bring it to where it has to be. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Roseberg. I now see MP Wever requesting the floor. MP Wever, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, my honorable colleagues, those listening and viewing via the social media. I also would like to state that education is key. I think it was explained correctly through the MPs before me as well as to the procedure of it. I think it's unfortunate what happened the last time that this vote came on the floor, that it was used as a tool to say that a vote against this motion means a vote against independence for this country, because that's definitely not what the purpose is of this motion. So to put it out to the public as if that was the case, that's definitely not the case. But the reason is that we need to do things the correct way. And based on that, I will also keep the same vote to vote against this, and for the House of Parliament to do the correct steps necessary to proceed in eventually having a proper referendum done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Weaver. I see no other speaker requesting. I see MP York once again. MP York, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, after taking note of everything that's been said up to now, I find it quite convenient that when it's to someone's benefit, we delve into the nitty-gritty of what a law states and the interpretation of a law and the proper protocols. When it comes to important things like the budget, we try to usurp these same protocols. But with that being said, I find it quite ironic that out of the blue, not out of the blue, it is what it is. There's a law that is needed to execute a referendum. That is true. But there has been talks about a referendum since 2012, 2015. So why are we still talking about a law that has to be made in 2025? And there are some people who have been in this same hall since 2012, 2015. I understand, okay, maybe things had started, but it never got finished. And since I've been in Parliament before this was brought up, I didn't hear anyone speaking on the matter. I know there are committees formed in order to push these initiatives forward, but I never saw a meeting called to discuss this matter since being in Parliament, although very short. So, although I do understand both sides of the coin, I really think we're thinking too far in the state, in the sense of what is our position as Parliament on the subject of a referendum. And indeed, as MP Weaver just pointed out, no, actually, it's not what MP Weaver just pointed out. It's not if you vote against this, is a vote against independence. It's a vote for a referendum on the topic. So voting yes or no doesn't release your stance on what you think about independence. It's about a referendum of what Parliament thinks on having a referendum, yes or no. So we could delve into semantics, but unfortunately, I will be sticking to the same vote as before, which is yes. Thank you.
Thank you, MP York. I now see MP Otley requesting the floor. MP Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, good day to the viewing and listening public. I'll be very, very brief. One thing, I know what's going to happen today. It's not even a secret. But one thing that I'm happy about this motion is that referendum is now a topic. Referendum is at the forefront. And the people won't forget. So let's see, everyone who is, let's do it the correct way, let's do it the correct way. When this is voted against today, time will tell. And let's see who really will head all committees that we speak about. Who really will bring forward all the laws that we speak about. Because the public is watching. And again, everybody like to jump and speak of referendum, independence. Referendum is to gauge the feeling and sentiment of the public. That is all that was being asked. So I will vote for, as I did before. And if it's voted against, I trust that this Parliament will do it the correct way, since this way was incorrect. That's all.
Thank you, MP Otley. Members of Parliament, we now go over to the voting, and we start with number 13. We start with number 2.
MP Irion.
4.
MP Veronica Jansen-Webster.
Against.
MP Dimar La Vega.
Against.
MP Francisco La Cruz.
4.
MP Franklin Myers.
4.
MP Rayan Peterson.
Against.
MP Shamira Roseberg.
Against.
MP Ludmila de Weaver. MP Christopher Waver.
Against.
MP Darrell York.
4.
MP Omar Otley.
4.
MP Lyndon Lewis.
4.
Chair Lady Sarah Westcott Williams.
Against. The votes cast are 6 for and 6 against. Based on the rules of order, this is the second time the voting has been tied, and thus this proposal is rejected. We go over to agenda point number 3, which would have been, or in fact, which is the draft National Ordinance laying down rules on higher education and research, the so-called Higher Education Ordinance. As I mentioned during the introduction, this is IS 431 of the parliamentary year 22-23, and it's dated February the 8th, 2023. The draft National Ordinance itself is number 165 of the parliamentary year 2022-2023. Although members have received a notification a little earlier today regarding the postponement of this particular agenda point on the request of the minister, I just wish to run down where we are at with this ordinance. The draft National Ordinance for Rules on Higher Education and Research was received by Parliament on February the 8th, 2023. All members, of course, have received a copy of this draft National Ordinance. A Central Committee meeting was held on August 14th and October 26th of 2023 on this subject matter, and members of Parliament were able to pose their questions, and the ministers answered these questions. A report was made on the deliberations in the Central Committee and was sent to the government. The government answered this report with a so-called note following the final report. This particular document, so the answers from government, is registered on the IS 265, dated December 8, 2023. The draft National Ordinance was tabled in a public meeting on September the 5th, 2024, during which members of Parliament posed questions in the first round. Due to the fact that the composition of Parliament changed on September the 20th of last year, it was decided to restart the handling of this draft. Hence, this meeting was initially called for November the 8th of last year. I also want to note that on September the 19th, 2024, Parliament received a so-called Note of Aanwijziging, a memorandum of modification from the government on this draft. And this document is registered on the IS 049 of 2425. All members have access to all the relevant documentation also via the Parliament General Team. At this point, we would have had the minister who would have come in to either present the draft or respond to the questions posed in an earlier meeting. However, as you have received by email based on a request by the Minister of ECYS, this agenda point, so the draft law on higher education will be postponed until another date, of which you will be informed as soon as we get the information from the Minister. So I herewith adjourn this meeting of Parliament until further notice where agenda point number 3 is concerned. Meeting adjourned.